Welcome everyone to part 11 of the Social Clone project. Before we can begin debugging, we have to add in views for leaving and joining groups. We kind of left those views untouched, and now we're going to add them in. It's going to be two class-based views, and then we're going to connect them to the urls.py file inside of the groups application. Once we've done that, we should be ready to go for debugging and testing. The reason we have to do this before we actually jump straight into debugging is that we'll get a lot of errors because inside of a lot of our templates, we're actually calling groups join and groups leave for those actual buttons, and we need some sort of view to at least connect them. Let's hop over to the editor and finish that up. Alright, here we have the views.py file for groups application, and we have create group, single group, and list groups, and now I'm going to create two more class-based views. And there's going to be a join group, I'll put past there for now, and a leave group. And they're going to look really similar, just one's going to be for leaving a group and another one's going to be for joining a group. Let's start with join group. First off, to join a group you should be logged in, so we'll have login required mixin, and we're going to use another generic class-based view, and that one's going to be a redirect view. So once someone clicks on join, we should do some stuff on the back end of our models to join the actual user to be a group member of that group, and then we're going to redirect to another page. So what we can do here is say def, and there's a method we can define called getRedirectURL, and that will allow us to grab whatever URL we want to direct them to once they join a group. So we'll say self, args, and keyword arguments, and we're just going to return a reverse call. So in order to use reverse, make sure you scroll up here and actually import it. It's right here under URL resolver, so we're good to go. And let me collapse the directory tree, get a little more room here. And then we're going to redirect to groups single. So that will be the detail view of that particular group. Now, in order to know what groups we're talking about, we're going to add in a keyword arguments dictionary, and it's just going to define slug as self keyword arguments, self keyword arguments get slug. Essentially just get whatever slug of the page or clicking button that you're on the join group of. And that's all you need to do for get redirect URL. And then what we can do is add in some more checks in case this person's already a member of the group. So we can say def get, and that will be self request, and that takes in args and keyword arguments. And we'll define group as getObject. In fact, we're going to need to import this. We'll say getObject or for, which either means try to get the group that this person is currently looking at or return a 404 page. So in order to use this command, we're going to scroll back up, and then we'll say from django.shortcuts import getObject or 404. And you'll also notice there's a getList option, but we're just looking for a single object, so we'll just say group, and then we'll say group is what we want, so then we're going to add in a couple more things. We will say group slug, and slug is going to be equal to self keyword arguments get slug. And then we're going to try, we will say group member objects create user is equal to self request user, where group is equal to group. Alright, so what does that actually mean? I'm going to try to get the group member objects and create one where the user is equal to the current user and group is equal to group. So creating a group member, and then I will have an except, and I can actually accept a specific error. So the specific error we're looking for is an integrity error, although you don't have to technically, you can just say accept, you don't have to write in the error here. So we can say integrity error, and then we will say messages warning. And in order to use messages, you're actually going to need to import it. So let's scroll back to the top and say from django.contrib import messages. So these are basically things we can send back to the user. So we'll say from django.contrib import messages. So we can send them a message, hey, you're already a member of that group if you're trying to join it again. and then say self.request. And then we actually pass in what we want to warn here. So we can say warning, already a member. So that will be if they're already a member, we'll get some sort of error there. Else, what we're going to say is messages, success. Then we'll say self.requests. And then say, whoops, as a second, whoop, crap. This is not supposed to be an equal sign. Neither is this. We're just supposed to pass in the request itself. And then here, we're going to say, as a second argument, you are now a member. And we actually don't need these parentheses here. That's just the second argument. Okay, so that should be it for that. And then at the end of all this, of get, we're going to return, call super get request args, and then keyword arguments. And then save that. So what we're doing here is if you're joining a group, we have this get redirect URL from this redirect view that just says, okay, once you join the group, go back to that group's single detail page. And then for this, we want to make sure that a person is going to receive some sort of error or warning message if they're already inside the group. And a good way to do that is by using Django's built-in messages from contrib. So using that, you can just try to do what we would do, which is grab a group member object and create it with user equal to the current user and group equal to group, which we just said get object or create. So that's where group's coming from. So this group right here is linked to this group right here on line 29. And then we can say accept integrity error, and you can just actually say accept. So if there's any sort of error, you could just say, for instance, this. That's totally fine as well. Save that, and then we're going to send some warning message that says, hey, you're already a member. Otherwise, if it works, we'll say you are now a member, and then we're just going to return super get request and then args and keyword arguments. Then we're going to fix this for leave group, and this will actually be pretty similar. So for leave group, we're going to again say you should be logged in to leave a group, and we'll also have a generic redirect view. So once you leave a group, you should redirect it somewhere. So we'll say, in fact, we'll just make it the exact same thing. Once you leave a group, you get redirected to that group's page. You could also make it redirect to the home page if you wanted to, or the group list page, but we'll keep things simple. Let me make sure my indentation's right. There it is. So again, pretty much the exact same thing. Once you leave a group, you'll be redirected to that group's detail page. And then finally, we'll have a get method, very similar to the one we just made. So get is going to be self, request, args, keyword arguments, to make sure that they can't accidentally leave a group if they're not really in it. So what we're going to do is first try. So we'll try to get a object, we'll call it membership, and set that equal to models, group member. And that will be objects, and I'm going to filter those objects. And we will filter, let me start this on a new line. User is equal to self.request.user. And then group underscore 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 slug is equal to self.keyword arguments get slug. And then off of all that, we're going to just call get method. So we're going to attempt to try to get a membership, and that's off that group member, assuming that the user is already in that group. So grab the group slug, grab the user off that group member object, and that's going to be my little membership that I'm going to be playing around with. And then I'm going to be accept, and I can say accept models, group member does not exist. So that's an actual thing I can call off that group member object. So if that thing doesn't happen to actually exist, it means that group member was never actually a member of that group. So you accidentally click the leave button on a group you weren't ever a member of. So say messages, warning, self.request, basically the same thing we were doing last time. And says, sorry, you aren't in this group. And let's say you are not, so I don't have to worry about syntax for single quotes. Okay, so sorry you aren't in the group. Else what we're going to do is, if everything's working, we'll say membership, and we can call a delete method off of this. And then we're going to say messages, and call a success message, and then pass in the request, self.request, and says you have left the group. And then I'm going to return super get pass in request, pass in args, and then pass in keyword arguments. Okay, so that should be looking good. I'm going to save this. And the next thing I want to do is make sure I actually connect these views to my urls.py file. So let's open that up, urls.py. Inside of groups, we have a couple more views to do. So we'll come over and we'll add in the leave and join view to the url.py file. We'll say URL join / and we will say, we're actually going to just grab and copy and paste the same thing here. Join, and then we will say views dot join group and call that as a view and give that the name join, since that's what we did in the templates. And then the other thing we're going to do is add in the leave. So let me just copy and paste this since it's almost the same thing. Copy, paste, but instead of join, it's going to say leave, and instead of join group, it will be leave group. And then instead of the name join, it will be leave. So we're going to save that, and that's it for the join and leave views that we had to create. So again, over in views, these are definitely the more complicated views. That's why we kind of waited till now. For joining group and leaving group, they're really, really similar. They're both redirect views, meaning you just kind of define, okay, once this person's performed this action, where should they go to? And that's the redirect view. And I can actually pass in keyword arguments and grab things off that current request, such as the slug that they're looking at, to go to that detail page. And then we have two get methods, both in leave and join group. And basically what these do is check to see if the user can actually perform the given action. If you didn't have these try, except, else calls here, you may just get broken pages if the person wasn't in the group and then try to join it, and then try to join it again, etc. Instead of doing all that, we can just have these messages show up, and that will help fix any issues. Okay, so that's it. We should now be ready to take care of a few more things in settings.py, connect everything, and start debugging this. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.